This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for October 3rd, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 9, and episode number 448 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Bob Howard, and training camp has begun. Players are in town. Yep, the boys are back in town, if you can remember the old Thin Lizzy song from the 1970s, which dates myself, but that's okay. The boys are back in town. They all seem very excited to be here. I talked to a couple of the guys over the last couple of days in training camp as they were coming off the ice, getting fist pumps, and just talking to some of the guys that have been here on the Power Play Post Show. Had some great conversations, including with like Kyle Stefan, right? If you don't follow him on social media, he did some traveling on his motorbike and motorcycle and took some pictures, and they were just beautiful pictures. He told me they were up in Alberta, I believe, where he was. Some great stuff. And, got to talk to Eggy for a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about Eggy here just in a little bit here on the show. And it was just a very good 2 days with the guys and seeing them. I wish I could have brought you guys a little bit more stuff, but I was asked to keep some things a little bit tight-lipped, which obviously I'm going to do for the team and for Brant and everything, all the people there. I got to talk to a couple of the other players there. Tomer, everybody just seems really happy to be back in town and ready to play some hockey. Blake Tosto was very excited as well. So the training camp will continue until I think next Monday, and then on Monday, the final day, then they'll, if they need to make cuts, they'll make cuts, and then they'll kind of go to some regular practices for a couple days. There obviously is some events that are happening this upcoming Friday. On Friday, they are going to be doing the golf tournament with the Booster Club, which a lot of people have, rallied around to help out the Booster Club, and that's what this tournament is all about. And the Booster Club literally helps the players. That's what they're there for, and they do a very good job at that. So there's that coming up. They have next Wednesday will be Media Day, which I'll obviously be at, and that's where they take their pictures, just like if it was in the high school and you had to go get your picture taken. They'll get their picture taken, their headshot done. I don't expect a lot of cuts. Obviously, Brant came into this camp with 15 players that were signed from last year. That's a lot. That's a good amount. He already knows these guys. He already trusts these guys, and trust is a very big thing. So he already has these guys, and they're already ready. Now, only 13 were able to get here. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a little bit. But then he brought in some other players. Another guy from Morrisville State, which seems to be a pipeline for the Binghamton Black Bears and players from Morrisville to be able to come here. That's a D3 school. Bringing more D3 players in this league is honestly a very good thing. A lot of those D3 players might have gone to the SPHL. That's where the tide is turning a little bit with the Fed and the SP. I think there's still some people that are under the assumption that the SP is the true professional single-A hockey league, but I think the Fed is making that gap smaller and smaller and smaller. So there's, when we talk a little bit more with Brant here coming up on the Power Play Post Show, we talk a little bit about that gap and how it changes a little bit. He's got a lot of guys that he trusts that are here. And so he can really just work on systems, teaching the new kids, the rookies, on the right things to do And there's systems that worked well last year. And one of the impressions that I got from talking to Brant today is that he doesn't think the other teams are going to catch up to what they were doing. I really do think, and I know for a fact, I talked to Brant and I've talked to a couple other people, there are people in higher leagues that are watching the Binghamton Black Bears. Either they have a special connection to Binghamton and that's why they're watching, or they're interested in what Brant Sherwood is doing here. And I think that is really cool. I think that's very special. I think it's very important to understand that if people from other leagues, higher leagues, are watching what's happening here, there's an eye-opening that's starting to happen, which is that if you bring in the right people to any one of these teams, maybe Athens is going to be another example of that with, the head coach that they brought in there, their relationship with 3 ECHL teams, because they're all owned by Spire Sports, which also owns like race car teams as well. If you guys don't know, Spire is big into a lot of different areas of sports, and there's a lot of money there. And so they can do a lot of things. And I think that's the reason why they went into Athens and realized that their ECHL teams need a good pipeline. And why not build that pipeline in the Fed where financially and economically it's pretty good. But if you bring in a Steve Martinson into Athens and he starts to do some of the things that Brant is doing, right? Thinking about not just ECHL rejects, and I hate that term, but guys who've played up there maybe are not going to play up there anymore because there are other guys that are younger, fresher, cooler, hipper, all those type of things. But if you start to build off of D3 talent that can come out and come in and potentially have that chance, and a relationship needs to be had with all these Fed teams and the coaches with the ECHL markets, right? And at some point, you're going to catch up to the SPHL, and then people are going to start saying, wait, the Fed is not the Fed anymore. It's the FPHL. It is truly the Federal Prospects Hockey League. But unfortunately, there's still a stigma that comes around with the Fed. People still think it's that, beer league that there was nothing but brawling. That was 5 years ago. That was 6 years ago. That was 7 years ago. But 15 years in, guys like Steve Martinson and Brant Sherwood are going to start to change that. And what the Fed needs more of is more Brant Sherwoods. And I know Brant Sherwood was probably a pain in the ass to the Fed officials, the guys who basically run the league. They were probably like, oh my God, not Brant Sherwood again. Oh my God, here's another fine. Here's another suspension, whatever, right? But they don't understand that guys like him are making this league better. And he is creating a path for players to come out of D3 hockey, come out of ACHA, come out of club hockey, and to be able to come here, even coming out of juniors, junior A, junior Bs, whatever it is, and having a path to come and play pro hockey. And I really do believe that the league is in better hands because Coach Sherwood has come in here, and maybe even Steve Martinson's going to do the same thing, right? And what I like about it is that, hey, Steve Martinson, he's just signing people, right? He doesn't care about no slotting point system and all that stuff, right? And I don't know what the repercussions are going to be if he's over 50, and he may not be over 50. He may still work it down to be under 50. But they need coaches like these guys who understand how to build minor league hockey teams and be successful with them. And Steve Martinson's done that. We'll see what he does, right? I'm talking him up, but he is successful. He's done it already in the past. And I really do think that if there's got to be a mindset that's got to change in the minor league or the minor pro hockey world, from the AHL to ECHL, they got to stop looking at the SPHL, which only has 10 teams, folks. There's not a lot of players to pull from 10 teams. But now you have 14 teams in the FPHL. What if they go to 16 next year or 15, or they at least increase it? They don't decrease, but they increase. What if that happens, or they stay at 14? You still have more players down here that could be at the SPHL league, right? But are playing here that are options. And one of the things that I think, and it's something I talked about with Coach Sherwood, and he already has this going a little bit, this relationship with an ECHL market, right? If you're a Fed team, why not reach out, if you're the head coach, to the ECHL head coach in the ECHL, right? And you just, what do? You just talk to them. You build a relationship. So when they need a player, they know who to call. That already happened last year. And Coach Sherwood talks about it again. We've talked about it, I think, in a previous interview with Coach, but he brings it back up again, right? Where Adirondack calls the head coach, McGuire calls Brant Sherwood and says, "Hey, I need a player. Can you get me a player?" And Coach is on his way to go to Carolina. They were like literally getting on the bus. And he couldn't give up because they were shorthanded. But this is a phone call that hopefully will happen again this year. And then Coach Sherwood can say, "Yep, I'm sending a guy for the weekend." Or "I'm sending a guy for the week. Do what you need with him. If you can, please send him back," right? Of course, if a guy goes up there and he presses well, and they want to sign him for the rest of the year, I think that's a win-win for everybody. I know it's a loss for Binghamton, the team and the players, but it's a win overall for everybody. And that relationship needs to grow. And if that relationship grows, then the SPHL becomes irrelevant, right? It becomes irrelevant. Not that there's not good markets in the SPHL, not that there's good there, but they're not growing like the FPHL is. And Binghamton's not in the SPHL, so I'm obviously going to root for the FPHL to grow in that way. And people need to realize, and I think the slotting point system is kind of proof that maybe the people who are running the league need to stop worrying about what one team is doing or two teams are doing and start thinking about how can we make this league be the league that the ECHL comes looking for, okay? Because the gap is closing between the SPHL and the FPHL. Now, that's the important thing. And that's something that I think needs to eventually get to the rest of the FPHL teams. How can we, in Columbus or Carolina or in Motor City, or Port Huron, how can we have a relationship with our closest ECHL partner or even an AHL partner? Now, folks, just before we get on to the real meat and the potatoes of this segment that I have, I just want to say there are Fed teams close enough to both AHL and ECHL cities. And there needs to be a relationship there, something where that can just be like, I can pull from you, I can call from you, I can get a player. And the more and more they do it, the more and more the Fed can then eventually start counting, hey, we had 20 or 15 or 10. Let's get to 10 first, right? Let's get to 10. Let's say 10 players played in the ECHL from the Fed, right? It's happened a few times, guys go up. And now, of course, Athens might have that happen a lot more, right? Because someone might get called up to the ECHL, spend a weekend there, and then come back down to Athens. And that just might be the way it is because Athens is designed for that, right? But the other teams aren't. Again, Coach Sherwood has that relationship. But what's important here is that last year, Jim Sirosi from the Syracuse Crunch, a man who I've met and talked to and had great conversations with, super awesome. They run a great organization up there with the Syracuse Crunch. He called up the Black Bears and said, hey, we're short some goaltenders. We're doing some goaltending sessions. Can you send up your goaltenders? And then Connor McAnanima, Sam Levecchi, and Nolan Egbert went up there and did that. And they were called up a second time and a third time. Why? because it's a great relationship. Syracuse and Binghamton can have that kind of relationship. And yeah, maybe a player is not going to go up and play in Syracuse. Maybe a goaltender could go up and sit on the bench and be the backup, like in an emergency backup. Sure, that could potentially happen. But what's important here is to know that Binghamton is still a good minor league hockey city, even if it's in the Fed, that other minor league hockey cities can benefit from. And that's what's important here. And I think that's what I wanted to make sure that I talked about in a articulate way. There's relationships that are happening. There was relationships that are going to happen between Fed cities and the ECHL. That is going to change the tune. That is going to make this league. And yeah, you know what? Maybe people are going to be like, well, there's not enough fighting. And yeah, it's not the original Fed. Who cares? Do you want these teams to be around for a long time? Do you want these owners to make some money? Do you want to see 4,000 or 5,000 fans in these arenas for games? If you do, then there has to be the ability to win and also the ability to develop and start eventually seeing these relationships between not only Fed teams and ECHL teams, but maybe even AHL teams. And it's possible, right? And listen, I still feel the best thing for single A hockey is we wipe away the Fed and we wipe away the SPHL and we just have one single A league. Unfortunately, we have two different people running both of those leagues that have different mindsets on how to do it, and they'll never come together. So one is eventually going to push out the other. We'll see what happens. All right. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears, Brant Sherwood. Okay, folks. Camp for the Binghamton Black Bears is underway at Division's Veterans Memorial Arena. 22 players are here in camp. The only two missing are Dan Stone and Josh Fletcher. Okay, I was there. I can visually see that they were not on the ice. Both were not able to come across the border. Fletcher was denied a visa. Fletcher was denied a visa when he was actually at the airport to get into the country. Dan Stone did get a call from Pensacola, the Ice Flyers, in the SPHL. This is good for the Black Bears and for Dan Stone on multiple levels. Stan gets to go to camp in Pensacola and will also help him get a P1 visa versus the B1 visa, which is what some players in the Fed have to get sometimes to stay. And in the B1 visas, which is more of a business type of visa, is only for 6 months. Okay, this is more about how the FPHL is structured as a league, more so than anything else. The SPHL, the ECHL, the AHL, and the NHL, due to the economic structure of those leagues, allows Canadians or international players to be granted P1 visas. Okay, so I pulled up the explanation of what these two visas are. Now, I don't know 100% on how all this works, so please understand, I'm just providing some information for you. A P1 visa is a non-immigrant visa for internationally recognized athletes, artists, and entertainers who want to perform or compete in the United States. There are two types of P1 visas. P1A, which is internationally recognized athletes or athletic teams, and then P1B visas is individuals for members or an entertainment group. Okay, this is what those visas there is what Canadian players primarily. We can talk about other international players, but for the Black Bears, it's mostly Canadian players that are looking to come over. Those guys are looking for that. This is what the SPHL, the ECHL, the AHL, and the NHL can get for these players. The FPHL, in the way it's structured, cannot get that. Players do not get that, unfortunately. Now, a B1 visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows a person to temporarily enter the United States for business-related activities. And there's a whole list of things. It is not intended for employment or productive activities such as operating a business, or a person with a B1 visa cannot receive a salary or a remuneration from a U.S. source. So, that is one of the reasons why the Fed, some of the players can only get a B1 visa. Now, with this, I'm not placing any blames. To outright put blame on anyone is unfair about this. The FPHL is structured the way that they are because it works for the environment that they're in, relatively new league, which is only in their 15th season. They play in also some of the couple of smallest hockey markets there is. When you're talking about community rinks and you're talking about places that don't fit more than 1,000, the economic structure of the FPHL is done in a way that allows these teams to survive. Now, again, probably in the future, you can't play in some of these markets because you're going to need to change the structure of the league, especially if you want to get the league up to maybe 30 teams and you start to have a better relationship with the ECHL. Does this need to or possibly have to change in the future? Sure. That will likely take a little bit more time. Josh Fletcher at this point needs to hook up and get with an SPHL team to get him his P1 visa. Players who are Canadian and get a shot in the SP or the ECHL, one of the benefits is the ability to get this visa. Of course, the other benefit is to play at those two leagues. Now, the SPHL is, game-wise structured differently. It's not a lot of high scoring. It is a lot more physical of a game, which is why some people still consider it a higher level league. But that's not necessarily the case anymore, okay? So getting this would give them the ability to get the visa that would allow them to play a full season in the U.S. I don't want to go into it any further than that. That's what it comes really down to. Nobody's at fault here. This is just the way it is. It is difficult. A couple of our players played up in the SP last year. It benefited them because they got to play up there, which is great. But also at the same time, they did get their P1 visas. Okay. So here are my thoughts on Tuesday and Wednesday camps that I watched. I want to get away from that stuff for a second. I watched a full 2 practices so far. Coach had the team working on systems. For some of the vets, this was just a repeat of last year. They already know these systems, right? And for them, it was just more about getting the summer rust off, which I thought in the Tuesday everything looked good. Everybody looked sharp and fast, but they also have been doing 2-a-days. What I saw Coach doing during these drills was work a lot with the rookies. So when I saw them break up into separate groups, I saw a lot of the rookies be in one group, and in the other group was a lot of the veterans. That allowed Coach Sherwood to kind of really run the rookie side of things. That's the way he's going to be able to kind of take a look at guys and go, okay, where am I going to be able to put him? Is he good enough? Is he going to progress? Coach has that ability to kind of analyze that while he's watching them run these drills and learning some of the systems that he puts into place. They worked on 2-on-3s, breakaways, and you can see the semblance of some line combinations, okay? So here's a little bit of what I saw. So this just gives you a taste of what you might see next week when the season starts against the Watertown Wolves on Friday night in Watertown, when you probably watch it on, obviously, YouTube. What I saw, and I talked a little bit about this with Coach Sherwood during our interview, we saw Jamie Bussell on a line with Tyson Kirkby and Austin Thompson. So Jamie was on the left side, Tyson obviously centering, Austin Thompson on the right side. So that kind of answers that question that I've been asking throughout the summer, right? Who was going to be that first line right wing? And it looks like it was going to be Austin Thompson. Now, Gavin Yates is on the second line with Kyle Stefan and Blake Tosto. I like this a lot, okay? You've got 2 very, very good skaters in Gavin Yates and Kyle Stefan, right? And then you have Blake Tosto, who seems to, at this point, do a little bit of everything good, right? Like, is he the best skater? No. Is he the best shooter? No. Is he the best? No, but he's like right below those guys doing everything really good. Blake Tosto was one of the guys that Coach Sherwood said he could see getting a call-up or a loan or whatever you want to call it, okay? On the third, what we saw a little bit now, and some of this is really not solid, but Cam Clark, Nick Stuckless, and Christopher Mott as the centers with Scott Remekers on the right wing side, right? So you got Clarkey, and then I saw a little bit of Nick Stuckless and Christopher Mott, and then Ramekers on the right side. I did see Dakota Bond and Dan Weber playing together as a pair a lot. Both were very vocal during the practices that I watched. I brought this up with Coach, and he said Dakota Bond is usually on the bench, and he's very vocal even during games last year. But I really did notice that he was not just barking out orders when he was on the ice and they were running drills. He was just very communicative with his teammates and a little bit louder than I remember him being on the ice. So I thought that was pretty good. Now, that brings me to possible alternate or assistant captains, right? We already know that Jesse Anderson is more than likely staying as one of the assistant captains. Tyson Kirkby should be the captain of the team. But Dakota Bond, man, he could be biting for that. It could be Gavin Yates as well. Gavin was one of the guys that was brought into the leadership group last year, even though he didn't have an A. I have been to AHL practices in the past, and ones that I've seen last season and in this season for the Black Bears of the couple days are organized as those practices. What I mean by that is I've been to AHL practices. I spent a lot of time at Binghamton Senator practices. I had a schedule that allowed me to go there and sit and watch some of the practices. And I got to be honest with you, these are organized. These are very well thought out and very to the point type of practices. I think this is something that is going to really benefit Coach Sherwood as he moves up and does practices in other leagues. People are going to see this. They're going to notice. And like I said, people are already noticing and watching Coach Sherwood and the Binghamton Black Bears that are in higher leagues that are not associated with the Binghamton Black Bears. Is the intensity the same? Maybe not. Now, what do I mean by that? I think players at a higher level, and this is a fair comment to say, they're driven just a little bit differently. They're also just wired a little bit differently. But the practices go from about an hour to an hour and a half. To like an hour and 45 minutes. And here in camp on a couple of the days, they're doing 2-a-days. So this is structured very much very well like an AHL and probably even a couple of the good ECHL camps as well. Coach told me he was happy with the true rookies and that he will likely see them play in a couple games at the beginning of the season. Remember, there's not a lot of guys to cut here. He does not have a lot of guys in here. There's still a couple guys that could join the team in November, and you cannot even roll out the Don being back in Binghamton. Nothing has been decided by either party, so please do not go and tell people that Bob said that Don Oliveri is coming back. But this does mean there is a chance. It has not been ruled out for Donald Oliveri to come back to this team. So we'll see what happens. Now, of course, we also found out on Wednesday, Nolan Eggy Egbert has been loaned to the Fayetteville Marksmen, put the Black Bears camp down to 21 players. So again, right there, if anything, maybe one player it gets cut because you could be down to, I guess, 20 players going into, I mean, you got to be down in 18, but in the first two games, they could be where they want to be just because they don't have to cut down to the 19 until all the teams start their season. So that is very interesting right there. Well, that is it for me. I thought camp was very well done. There was a lot of good stuff there. There are some stories I wish I could tell from camp, but that's okay. That's okay. That's all right. We got a lot of stories to tell here on the Power Play Post Show over the next 6 or 7, 8 months. 8 months? I don't know. That's a lot of months. 8 months. Yeah, about 8 months. About 8 months here in this regular season. I do think, and I'll be at camp. I'll be at the media day next Wednesday, which will allow me to talk to a few players. We're going to pick out a few players and get with Brooksy and talk to a few players for about 15, 20 minutes each, maybe 15 minutes each, and just try to get their thoughts on camp and going into the season, what their plans are, just like we did with Media Day last year where we got a few guys on. Hopefully it'll be guys that will stick around. And J.C. Moritz was a great talk to, but he didn't stick around. But we did get Connor Smith last year and Tyson Kirkby. Hope to change it up a little bit this year at Media Day and get a few guys. Plus, I hope to get a few guys to possibly even say, hey, this is so-and-so, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show. That'll be a lot of fun as well. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, we'll get right to it. Now, God, I talked to 30 minutes. I haven't done a 30-minute segment by myself in a while, but there was a lot to talk about here when it came to leading into this. And I hope you guys learned a little bit and also enjoyed it as well. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, he is the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears. He's been on here so many times, we should just name the segment after him. He is Coach Brant Sherwood. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. As we get a ding here in the Binghamton Black Bears, Brant Sherwood's office, to start the interview. Brant, you had a phenomenal summer. It doesn't get any better than what you got to do. Talk a little bit about your summer, house, a wedding, a trip to Europe. Did you win that on Wheel of Fortune? Because that seemed like one of those Wheel of Fortune type of trips and everything for you guys. But you had a pretty good summer.
Let's just say it was pretty jam-packed, and we decided to do all the adult things in one summer. So the honeymoon, the wedding, buying a house, it was all put together in 3 months. So yes, very busy, but now everything's kind of settled in, and we can just focus on hockey. But just so happy to get married, find my partner for life and Gemma, and just finally get out of these 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments where all our stuff's piled on top of each other, and get a little bit more spacious in our house. But going over to Europe for the first time was beautiful, eye-opening, especially as far as the food goes. Doesn't put you on your butt as much. As far as the American food does, sometimes this fried food, it really crushes your day, and you notice a big difference in the food over there.
So camp starts, and you have about 22 guys in. A couple guys obviously absent, and Dan Stone obviously getting a shot in the SP, which is helpful to him in many ways and everything. One person not here. But the group of guys you do have here, 22 guys, I think 13 returning guys from last year. If you add Dan Stone and Josh Fletcher, that would be obviously 15. Pretty good group so far.
Yeah, we have an amazing group, and a lot of times it's just based on the conversations with them over the summer. You kind of get to know them a little bit, and I've heard you say it on the podcast. These are a lot of previous captains, so they have good leadership
assistant
qualities.
captains.
Yeah, and you see that on their resume, and it strikes out to you a little bit more than maybe the points and stuff. Because we have a lot of good returners, and we only have so many opportunities. So guys that are in those leadership roles in their previous, college careers or juniors, they know how to adapt to different roles and maybe be on the third line for a couple months and know how to manage that and know what we expect of them. There's a real maturity level when I'm trying to get these players in. we're very lucky for the group we have. I did expect a little bit more. We're hoping to get Fletch in here soon, and love seeing Dan Stone get up to Pensacola. It's awesome to see these guys climb. At least give him a look, and hopefully he sticks. If not, we're welcoming him with open arms, and very happy to see Dan Stone back. But if not, he might fall in love with the beach, and I think Pensacola would have a really good player. And
he's such a relaxed dude. You could see him on the beach. You know what I mean? And just chilling.
Yeah, toes in the sand, like maybe a pina colada or two, but. For the most part, he's like right-handed defensemen are so hard to come by, but also the same thing with Fletcher. Like I'm trying to find him a gig in the SP as well, and those guys are hard to come by as well. Like as far as like centermen, winning draws, PK specialists, good F1, and then ultimately just being a glue guy and sticking up for his guys on the ice. It's he's so valuable, and I hope we can get him here soon or get him up to the SP.
Well, without Fletch here right at the moment, when we look down the middle, you've got Tyson, you've got Kyle Stefan. After that, who are you looking, if Fletch doesn't come in, to be that third-line center? I know you don't like first line, second line, third line, but okay. I look at it that way. The fans look at it that way. So who do you see kind of projecting in? I know camp's only been a couple days so far. You've only had a few practices, but who do you kind of project maybe?
So right now I'm giving Stuckless a look there, and Mott. So Mott's another good player, another SUNY Morrisville guy,
I was
and then
say D3, 4
Stuckless
years.
is SUNY Buffalo or Buffalo State, and there's a lot of guys that have played wing, like on our team, that are also centers. Like Blake Tosto comes up to me at the end of the year, he's like, I played center all my time in college, and we have him on the wing. So he's another option there. And then Clarkey, also another guy that played center all throughout college, but I like him more on the wing. It gives him the ability.
Do you guys have a personal limo service between Morrisville State and Binghamton? I'm just kind of curious on that.
It's just slide down the mountain or something, down Greek Peak or whatever. But no, yeah, we have a bit of a pipeline. Pipeline with Morrisville, pipeline with Adrian College. We stay along that Rust Belt and try to get these guys in the Northeast or even in Ontario.
Okay, so down the center, you're okay with where you might be, even third line, if Fletch doesn't get in?
Yes. No matter what, like we're going to be a good team. Our culture's here. We got a lot of our core guys back, but obviously we want Josh Fletcher here.
A couple practices that I've seen, a couple guys were a lot louder than I remember them being last year during games. Dakota Bond and Dan Weber. Is there something different about them this year that you've noticed on the ice, talking a lot more, not barking out orders? Maybe that's not the right terminology, but really encouraging and, maybe helping provide instruction to maybe some of the younger players. It did seem like both of them seemed to be just a little bit more talkative on the ice.
Yeah, these guys, they're developing into leaders, and I'm sure they were already leaders at previous places they played. But, for example, Dakota Bond, now he's more vocal in practice. But if you're on the bench with him in the game, he's one of the most vocal guys on the back end. He's very positive, but also picking up on the other team's habits and relaying that message to the forwards or his D partners. So he's been great in that sense. But as far as like the past couple practices go, yes, he's been louder. I want him to be louder. He's a leader on this team. He's another guy that's going to be, battling for like one of those last letters.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the letters and everything, because I know you and I talked about Gavin Yates last year as a potential A. Could Gavin or Dakota or even Dan Weber become a leader? I know Weebs is kind of like like a fun guy and everything.
I'll talk about Weebs first. We actually. I love Dan Weber, and he balances that fun side of hockey and then also being serious at the same time. So
he works hard, though.
Yeah,
you can see it.
He knows when to turn it on, and he knows when to loosen up the group. So he finds a good way to manage that. But the big kind of joke around the room is he's the practice captain. So they call him PC, and then it leads on to Lieutenant Dan and all that stuff. But I think I pulled him aside after the first skate on Monday, and I was just like, hey, like, you are looking good. Like, it is, like, you look like you got a little bit more confidence, and I just think he's just ready to take on that next role, and you can just tell in his game the way he's moving, the way he's talking, and the way he's handling himself. It's amazing. Now, Gavin Yates, he's going to be a solidified leader on this team.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time when we do the announcement, but...
well, we've talked about that in the past about Gavin.
I wanted him to wear a letter last year, but there's, some rules within the league. You can only have so many and stuff, but Gavin Yates
can't have 15 A's.
Yeah,
C, right?
yeah, exactly. But Gavin Yates, we added him to the leadership room, I think around like February of last year. So we're including him on all the meetings. We're bouncing ideas off him, and he's a great voice in that room, and he can relay a good message from what we need from the boys from the locker room.
One of the guys that last year I looked at the end of the year, right? Because you have true rookies, haven't played a game yet, right? And then you have the second-year rookies, I like to call them, right? They came in, they played like Tosto and Cam Clark and Scott Ramerakers. I'll never pronounce his name right. I'll try, but I haven't done it yet. But when you look at Tosto, right, and I was thinking, man, he could be first-line right wing. He could be second-line right wing really easy and everything. What are you looking for from him in this camp to solidify that he can be first-line, second-line easily?
He's there already. He's there. And when he first came in last year, you saw it off the bat. But we had a stacked group of forwards, and he kind of had to take on a different role on the third line. And he did it so well, and he forechecked hard, and he did all the right things along the walls by chipping pucks, getting it out, and taking care of his D zone. Now it's kind of that next. Not even necessarily step. He already had it within him. I could have put him on the first or second line last year, and he would have succeeded. But this year he's coming in. We're kind of like, we'll just compare it to previous years. Cam Clark and Blake Tosto are the new Connor Smith and Brendan Stanko.
Gotcha.
And we'll add Scotty to that mix too. It's just I think those guys might be a little bit ahead, but Scotty's been looking great in the past couple of days. He's got some really soft hands around the net where he can really bury pucks and get the goalies moving side to side and pop it in. But yeah, I'm looking for these guys to make the next jump in the game, and then these are the guys that are really geared towards call-ups as well.
Now, there's a veteran here as well, Jamie Bussell, who came in. He played here for a short period of time, played a lot of time up in the SPHL. What are you looking for from him? What is the expectation from him from you? Just adding more offense to his game. So when he was in the SP, he had to be the most defensively responsible forward, and for the position he was in, he might not have been like top 6 all the time up there, so he's not. He's looking to stay on the plus side of things and not getting scored on and stuff like that. For like him coming, down with us, I'm looking for more offensive upside to him, and taking those chances when you see them and trusting your instincts. If like you feel like you can make that move at the blue line, make it. I'm not gonna harp on you. You're not gonna sit on the bench after making one mistake. Now after like 3 mistakes, that's when we have a talk. But other than that, like that's his foundation is there. I know what he's going to do for us as far as the D zone and taking care of pucks in the neutral zone. I want to see him really crack into that offensive side of his game. Gotcha. And let's talk about some of the true rookies on the forward side. You've got about 5 of them in here, and depending on how everything shakes out, they might get a couple games before cuts need to be made or whatever. So talk a little bit about those rookies. You had conversations with them during the summertime. Now they're here. Now you're getting to see what they can provide. What are you thinking?
So, like you said, these guys are probably going to see some games, and a lot of it has to do with our league starting before some of the leagues that are technically above us. And it's in
Technically.
Technically.
I love that.
Yeah, technically. We're closing that gap very quickly.
Yes.
Though. And, so they're going to get some games in, and I'm really excited to see Stuckless, Mott, Henry, Emerson, and possibly Van Orsdale. And these guys, and on the back end. The back end,
Yeah, you got a few.
It's hard to find defensemen. So
These
guys are going to get an opportunity, and I can't wait to see what they can do in a game. But yeah, like we're expecting a lot. These rookies come in, they kind of drive the team. They make some of those returners peek over their shoulder and like, hey, I'm coming for your spot, and this is what I need to do to take it. And if that's being hard on them in practice and putting the pressure on those top 6 forward roles or the top 4D, like I want them to push the pace and get to that level, because there's going to be injuries, there's going to be call-ups, and then that's when they get their opportunity to maybe gain a little bit more minutes.
What's really good for the Black Bears is that we're 14 minutes into this conversation. It's training camp, and we haven't talked about the goaltenders yet. But let's talk about Nolan Egbert first, because by the time this airs, it'll be known that he was put inactive for the team and that he's getting a chance up in the SP, right?
Yes.
For your goaltenders who haven't done this yet, even though all 3 of them got to go up to Syracuse and get some AHL guys to shoot at them, which was probably dangerous as all heck for the 3 of them. But either way, he gets to go up there and see a different type of hockey. Because we've talked about this before. It's a little bit more physical in the SP and whatnot. What is your advice to Eggy about this opportunity?
My advice is just enjoy it and don't think about coming back. Focus on being present there, and don't we won a championship. You got a lot of buddies here, and it's very comfy to stay. But buy into Fayetteville, buy into just winning the job there, and I think a lot of these guys are more than capable of playing in the SP. We've seen it with Tyson and Jesse Anderson, and they're choosing to stay here because of it might be
the success,
player treatment, housing, whatever it might be. They might just be in a better position as well as as far as being a top 6 forward or a top 4D.
But you want him to really buy into being there and try to win that position, because it's good for his development.
100%. And a lot of these guys, some of the guys that came back, they might have not had the best experiences in the SP. That doesn't have to be Eggy's situation.
Right. Fitzgerald talked about that last year.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot on our show and everything. And you want them to know that's not always going to be the case.
It's not always going to be the case. It depends on the coach you run into, the opportunity you're given, and just your overall approach when you get there. I enjoyed every minute of playing in the SP. I loved it. And I wouldn't even have thought about coming down to the Fed, but now that's starting to shift quite a bit. And
yeah, it's changing.
It's changing, and I do think the gap's closing. But as far as Eggy goes, he's more than capable of being an SP goaltender, and he's put in the work this summer to take that job. He's shown it in practice this week, and I couldn't be more excited for him.
Connor finished the season so effing well.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say the word, but I really want to say the word. I mean, and he basically told people, I am not going to lose again. That confidence is great, and his skill level is getting better and better. He trained this year in the off season with NHL, AHL type of caliber guys. You have Sam coming back. You guys know Sam. Everybody likes Sam. So goaltending wise, you're okay. You're good with just having 2 in camp right at the moment. Now that Eggy's gonna move
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a golden opportunity for Sam, and it kind of I don't have to make that 3 goalie decision right off the bat, which right. I'm very.
You waited until February last year, anyways.
Exactly, and that might have even been a little too long. And
sure,
sometimes these goalies can't even get in a rhythm. So I'm happy for the opportunity for Sam, and it kind of. It really opens up a door there. But CMAC is, even going into last year, going in the playoffs, he became our number 1. I know Eggy got sick on that last weekend, but I was not going to take him out of the net. his confidence, demeanor, everything about him, what he was doing in that net was absolutely unbelievable. And you'd think, like, coming back, like, a little, cockiness might be slipping into his head. Not at all. This kid is a physical specimen right now, and he was pretty. Don't mean to talk about the players' bodies; that could be kind of weird, but like this guy's carved up, and he is prepared, and he's leading the workouts, and you tend to not see that from goalies. Goalies, they might have a little chub on them or like stuff like that, but it's like.
Well, I've talked to a lot of goalies. They're sometimes a little weird.
Yeah.
But Connor is more calm and kind of collective and calculated, almost in a sense.
Very calculated. He's his own worst critic. He's watching video of like all his games as far as like goals against or just making saves, or maybe I could have done this better here. And part of that is he's a goaltending coach in the summer, so he's always thinking
analyzing.
Yeah, and analyzing. And then one of the great things that we did for the goalies this year is Jared Levine brought him in. That's awesome. So it's an extra set of eyes. It's all about meshing that relationship as best they can, knowing what works, what's going to be expected, and like bouncing ideas off each other. Jared's he's been helping on the ice this week, but his real time is with those goalie sessions, and that's where most of the work has to go into, and that's talking with the goaltenders and seeing, hey, this didn't work for me on this past weekend. What could I do better in this situation? And then creating a drill to try and mimic that. Yeah. And then on the other side of that is our ownership group providing the equipment for the goalies. It is absolutely.
I saw
huge.
new pads and
they look a little different. Yeah, they look a little different now.
So fans, you're going to see that on opening day.
That is absolutely huge. Organizations don't tend to do that, so we are very thankful for our ownership group for providing pads. Like, if people don't know, pads are close to $2,000 a full set, and that's maybe even on the cheaper side. Yeah. So kudos to Andreas for taking care of the boys and making sure they got the proper equipment needed to perform.
And that's a real important part of this. One of the things that we were talking about off air that I would love to bring up with you is about relationships with the higher leagues. You and I were talking a little bit about that, and of course the SP and the Fed are getting closer and closer, and you have relationships with people in the SP, which is great. But also, now that Athens and Steve Martinson has really a direct connection with 3 ECHL teams, the way their Spire Sports is kind of structured and everything, how important is it for other Fed teams, do you think, in your opinion, to have maybe, hey, let's reach out to our closest ECHL and try to become a partner and just really kind of communicate? Because, again, the level in the Fed of talent is getting better and better and better every year.
It's getting better, and then like proximity-wise. So if there's any type of emergency situations, I have a close contact with Pete MacArthur and Adirondack, and any of the fans remember last year with Tate Leeson. I'm the one that recommended him, and it's unfortunate we could have sent someone up from us, but we happened to be leaving for Carolina that morning. So kind of a tough situation there, but we have a direct line with Adirondack. I also have a direct line with Corey Melkirk and Jesse Kalecki in Fort Wayne. Nice. And Terrence Wallen in Maine. It's just a matter of them being able to
pull the trigger
and trust the kind of my perspective on the SP and Fed, and hopefully be able to convince them to take a shot on a guy.
Is it a few more years away for that trust and that belief in single A hockey with the Fed being the stop? I mean, because we're going to be looking at potentially 16 teams even next year in the Fed. That's more players and more possibilities that could be there for the ECHL to reach out to the Fed.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're like a couple of years away, but as we were talking before, I was a guy that's like, if you don't go to the SP, you're a dum-dum. And my whole mindset has changed with it.
But you've helped build that change. Yeah. You're part of that change by bringing in highly intelligent, capable young men who are also hockey players that ECHL teams could now start to look at.
It's funny, you're seeing a trend with a lot of other coaches in our league.
Sure.
Starting to grab Division III players. I don't know where that came from, but it's
a path. It's a path now. D3, Fed, maybe ECHL.
Where it used to be recycled.
Right.
Recycle guys. Oh, let's make a trade. I tend to stay away from trades in this league. I think.
Yeah, you haven't made many.
I don't like doing it because it's everyone overvalues their players. I really think you can just go out and recruit a new college kid and kind of like make them your own and get them into the system, and like, you know, getting a guy that bounces around might not be the best idea. Like maybe for an emergency situation or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, I do think it's going to take some time to convince those ECHL teams to really, take a chance on some guys in our league. But I just got to make sure I send the right one up to make our league look good, and make our team look good,
make
and
a
myself
good impression,
as well.
So. Before I let you go, what's the rest of camp? What are you looking for? What are you going to be working on with the guys over the next 5 days?
It's more so hockey IQ and implementing our system. So slowly the past 2 days I've been implementing like small systems, like what we want to execute on odd man rushes, 3-on-2 situations. And then today we got into our control breakout, and then like some ozone rotations as far as like running routes and, situational hockey when you have the puck in the corner, what we want to do with it from there. A lot of the time we like to go low to high, east to west, spread out their defense, get them tired, get them moving around. So that's kind of these next steps is, and our returners, this is going to be a little bit repetitive for them, but I do have some new things that we're adding this year with our D-zone and O-zone. But for the most part, the systems are going to stay the same. I don't see...
Why fix it if it is not broke?
Exactly. And then also, I don't see other teams making the adjustments necessary to stop it. Like, if that's maybe they're not doing enough video, maybe they're not picking up on things, but we've been running the same system since I got here, and obviously I'll make the adjustments if needed. We have 3 to 4 control breakouts, but like, hey, if something's working, we're going to stick with it until they stop it, and then we'll make the necessary adjustments mid-game or the next week in practice.
Do you have an Andrew Logar in the mix that we don't know about yet, because he scored 10 power play goals last year? I understand his situation, probably not going to be able to play and everything. Do you have a guy that you think will somehow surprise people? Because he surprised me with 10 power play goals, and some of the play that he made last year was a step up for him. And do you have a guy here that you think...
I don't necessarily think it's a new guy, but I do think it's Blake Tasso. I think he handles that bumper position very well, and we got to see it in his first game in Watertown. I think he had like two power play goals, and he's very spotty, knows where to be. He can keep the pucks in tight and really protect it, and kind of the term is like stick handling in a phone booth type of deal. So he can keep it close to his feet, know where guys are using his peripherals around him. So that's a very tough position to replace, because Logs did it so well.
He was good,
and
he would fight if you needed it. He did a little bit of everything.
Just
utility guy,
just a crafty scrapper. Yeah, he made up for some things that he might have lacked with, like, as far as his speed goes, in different ways. And there's always going to be missing pieces with these guys. It's just like, how do you highlight their positives and make them the best player, and then help them work on their weaknesses. Awesome.
Coach, thank you very much. Yeah. We're only like 9 days away from the home opener, 8 days from like the start of the season. You're pretty darn close to getting there, and even with a short amount of people in camp, you got a good group here already.
Yeah, a lot of reps going around. There's plenty of ice, so I'm happy with the way things are going, and I cannot wait to start next week on the road in Watertown. Watertown. I'm mumbling. It's a long morning.
It's okay. It's okay. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears, Brant Sherwood. Thank you very much for him taking his time. Listen, it's not like he is not a busy man during this time period. He is. There is a lot for him to do. I do also want to mention that I spoke to Jared Levine a little bit yesterday, or actually Tuesday, and we're probably going to get him on the show. We're probably going to make those arrangements and get him on, talk to him a little bit about his career and what he's done. Especially after, not playing hockey no more, right? People move on, but now there's an opportunity for him to come in and do a little bit of coaching and help out head coach Brant Sherwood. So we'll get Jared Levine on the show probably within the next couple weeks. So that'll be pretty cool as well. So you can hear a little bit about him. I saw him on the ice both days at camp, which I thought was good. He's going to be just another set of eyes for the goaltenders here in Binghamton. So, with that being said, that was Coach Sherwood. Next week here on the Power Play Post Show, we will talk to a few players at Media Day, which is on Wednesday, which will be perfect for our Thursday broadcast. Now, next week also you have the home opener on Saturday, the season opener on Friday, the 11th. So there is a lot of hockey that's about to begin for the Binghamton Black Bears, and they're looking to run it back, repeat, and really just, get back into the swing of things. Hockey is back in Binghamton. This is amazing. We're like in our 52nd year of having professional hockey here in Binghamton, New York. I'm excited to be a part of it. I also know that on October 10th is also the Greater Binghamton Hall of Fame's dinner, where they're doing a luncheon and with a bunch of broom dusters that'll be in attendance. It's remembering the broom dusters. That's a pretty cool thing. If you haven't gotten tickets, I believe you can go to the Greater Binghamton Hall of Fame's Facebook page and find out all the details to go and be a part of that. So if you're an old school hockey fan here in Binghamton and you want to do something on a Thursday, I believe it is. Yeah, it would be next Thursday. And that's actually going to be happening at Divisions Veterans Memorial Arena. I guess third floor up there. I believe tickets are $25. You get dinner and you get to meet these guys and hear a lot of people talking about it. So that is a very cool thing as well. Don't forget also, if you see me at the Binghamton Black Bears game next Saturday, not this upcoming Saturday because there is no game, but Saturday afterwards, I do have Power Play Post Show stickers. So come get your sticker, just like Dylan Konecki got his sticker and put it on his laptop, and we put that on Facebook. And if you get a sticker from me, I want you to put it on something, take a picture of it, send it in to me. I'll get it up on the Power Play Post Show Facebook group because I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to end this for now. If I get any information from Coach Sherwood that I can release over the next few days at practice, I will do that. I will kind of get a text message out to him and say, hey, listen, if there's anything you really want me to tell people about camp, or if there's anything that is pretty cool that comes out of it that I could release, I will try to find that out. Maybe I'll get a small report from him on Sunday evening or something to that degree. So with that being said, let's see how things go. And I cannot wait to go to Media Day next Wednesday. It'll be a lot of fun. And that's it for me. The countdown will continue on the Facebook group, so please check that out. And, share the pictures if you want to. That'll be very cool. And thank you for listening. I am Bob Howard, your host of the Power Play Post Show, and we'll be back next week right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the